Hello boys and girls, welcome to today's visual arts lesson. Today we're going to be focusing on posters, which is a subsection of graphic design. Now the last time we did a general introduction to graphic design, and so today we're going to look at one aspect of graphic designing, which is poster designing. Okay, so let's look at today's objectives. At the end of this presentation, you will be able to define graphic design, explain the purpose of posters, understand the importance of research when designing posters, explore different photo editing applications, create a design for a poster by following the strategic design process, complete a poster using an appropriate application and a theme of your choice, and finally, critique your design and the design of others in a constructive way. Now let's look back at what is graphic design. Now it is the art or profession of visual communication that combines images, words, and ideas to convey information to an audience, especially to produce a specific effect. Now, graphic design is all around us, and we will generally see it in different formats, whether it is posters, games, billboards, video games, websites, publications, etc. So there are a number of different media that graphic design shows through. Now, the thing about graphic design, it does one particular thing. It communicates an idea. And one of these media through which it communicates idea is the posters. Now, a poster is a large notice or picture that you can stick on a wall or board, often in order to advertise something. So the main purpose of a poster is to communicate information, whether it's for an event, whether it's a public notice, or whether it's for aesthetic purposes, which means just for beautification. Posters generally communicate and advertise. So let's look at how we make a poster. Now, before we can make our posters, we need to understand the design process. Now, each stage of the design process is geared at improving your design and ensuring that you are meeting the different areas that are expected. Now, the first step is the problem. Now, the problem normally arises from a situation that needs to be solved, information that needs to be conveyed. Most of the time, it will come from your clients who will be contracting you to do your posters. Now, we all want to get something out of our graphic designing, and therefore, I expect a few of you to venture out into the real world to explore and to get some contracts for yourselves. So, the first thing you'll need to focus on is the challenge. What do you need to do? What are you trying to convey? And after that is done, then you collect the information from your client. Now, the information will surround what is the message that should be conveyed, when it should be done, by which means should it be done, is there a theme? So you collect all of these information from your clients and you put it together in your database. Now, once you have collected the information, the brainstorming begins. This is the fun part. This is where you get to explore your different ideas. This is where you get to put concepts together and try to really enjoy yourself, but staying focused on the task at hand. So the brainstorming process involves you pulling pictures from the internet, pulling pictures from different areas, and even research. And research is very important because it will help you better represent the information that you seek to share with the public. Now, once you have completed the brainstorming process, you begin to develop and build the poster. Now, this will take a lot of troubleshooting. You might find this have to start over a couple of times, but that's okay. It's all a part of the design process. Now, feedback is very important. So while you're designing, you should communicate with your teacher, your client, or whomever has given you the task to do. Feedback is important because it will help you to know whether or not you're on track, whether or not you're meeting their expectations, or whether or not you're on your way to solving the problems. Finally, after feedback, we move back to improving your design, ensuring that you dot all your I's, cross all your T's, and make sure that the area that you have sought to address has been addressed. Now, so today we're going to be creating some posters. Now, I'm showing you these applications because these are all applications that you can use for this. Now, there are two computer applications there, which are Microsoft Publisher and Microsoft Word, but the others you can get on your mobile devices, your tablets, your phones, etc. Now, all of these applications are free with the exception of Photoshop. However, you can get most of the features in these applications. So you don't necessarily need to worry about not having Photoshop. So we're going to be creating our posters. Let's look at today's task. So today's task is to create a movie poster using any of the following themes. Now we have some interesting themes here. We have time, Africa, money, and identity. Take a few seconds, think about the one that you like the most or which one you think would really allow you to express yourself. It's a movie poster. So there are some principles when creating movie posters. Think about some movie posters that you have seen. Have you seen Godzilla vs. Kong? What was that poster like? Have you seen the new Fast 9? What was that poster like? So just think about those posters and try to get an idea of what you're expected to do before selecting a theme. For this exercise, I will be selecting the theme time. Okay, so step 1, idea development. Now the steps we're going to follow are similar to the strategic design process, but done in a more simplified way. So the idea development involves you pulling all your thoughts together, trying to get everything on paper. Now, idea development is important because it will help you to capture your theme, capture the idea, and properly represent what you have set out to represent. Now, the theme is time. So we want to look at how can I convey time on a movie poster without just saying time. All right? So I'm thinking maybe an action movie, maybe a horror movie. I don't think comedy would work for this one. So we're going to go with an action movie, and we're going to go with a horror movie. So I'm going to make 2 posters. Now, after the idea development comes the application. Now, selecting the application is very important. Different applications give you different effects, give you different feel, and are a lot more strategic. It's like painting. If you're going to paint and you're going to do an impressionistic painting, you might use big brushes. But if you're going to do a realistic painting, you know you need the fine brushes. So the application is like the brush that you're selecting to use. It will give you a different effect depending on what you want to achieve. Okay, so the next step is to select the application. Now the application that you select is really your tool. So depending on the project you're going to work on, if you're going to do a drawing, you know you need your pencil. If you're going to do a color drawing, you will need pencil crayons. So the application that you select is the tool that will give you the best effect or the best results from what you're going to create. So the 2 applications that we're going to be exploring are PicsArt and Autodesktop Sketchbook. Now, the PicsArt is a mobile application that is available on every smartphone. It's free, and you can find it in Google Play or the App Store. Now, the setup is very simple, very basic, and easy to follow. It's almost like your average photo editing application, just with a little bit more features. Now, here's the general layout for the application. You can go back and forth. You can see the directional buttons at the top, the download and save buttons, and then you have the key features at the bottom of the screen. Now, it's very easy to follow, but there's a little drawback with it. You don't really get to work through the layers. And so while it is simple and easy to use, if you make a mistake or you want to change something about the design, you might have to start all over. So you don't have that feature where you can go back and work on the first layer, then come back to the last one. Going back means undoing everything that you have done, and that can be a little annoying, but if it works for what you're going to do, then fine. So we're going to be using this application. Okay, so the other application is Autodesktop Sketchbook. Now this application has a wide range of features, and you're not as restricted as you are with the PicsArt. Now in this application, you will find your brushes on the left. Depends on which media you're using, or which device you're using rather. Whether you're using your tablet or your phone, the setup might be a little bit different, but the layout is really the same. So you have your brushes and you have different effects from the brushes. You can adjust the size of the brushes and the whole works. Now you also have your tool section. This is where your layers are, where you can push and pull the layers, play around with the layers, and you can work on them independently. This is important because if you make a mistake, you can always go back and correct one particular layer. Then you have the color wheel, which is very important when you're doing poster designing. The colors, the choices, and you can pick and choose all the range of colors in the color wheel. Now, up here now we see the undo and redo buttons, which are very, very important when doing graphic design, because a lot of times we make those little mistakes that we need to make adjustments to, which brings the adjustment tools up next. And the adjustment tools really gives you the opportunity to play around with size and other areas. Now, following that, we have the color filler, which really helps you to play around the colors and make different corrections to it. Followed by that, we have the ruler. The ruler now helps you to navigate the design in terms of how you want it to be positioned, different angles, etc. And it also helps you with the measurement of the final product. Now, come next, we have the shape tool. Now, shapes are very important in the design. It's another element of art and can really help you to play around with the effects that are in the picture. The symmetry tools are up next. The symmetry tools gives you balance in the design, and balance is very important and is also a principle of art and really helps you to get a nice effect. But when you add the symmetry tool, you really get a nice effect and a nice result from it. Now, the import files or the import images tool is very important because it is where you will pull and insert your pictures. And that's what you're going to be needing for this activity, as well as the text tool. Now you have a screen recording feature, so if you want to record the process, you can do that. And that's basically all the tools that we'll be using for this application. Now, after you have explored the application and after you have selected it, it's time for you to gather the materials. Now, for this first application, we're going to be using the following pictures. And you can see the application in the top left corner. And we're going to be using these pictures to create an action movie. Now, this idea I'm thinking time travel. And so I selected the astronaut because of the suit. It's not necessarily a time travel suit, but you get the feeling of somebody traveling with that particular picture. And then I coupled it with the galaxy picture, and then we wanted a picture of some streets and some things from some vintage looking images to kind of give you the idea of time travel. Now, when you're doing and gathering your pictures, it is important that you do some research. What comes to your mind when you hear of time travel? You know, clocks come to your mind, a suit comes to your mind, and we normally have a time traveling machine. And in this case, I'm going to be using the telephone booth as the time traveling machine. So gathering your materials is important because it will help with the message that you're going to convey. Now, for the horror movie, I'm going to be creating a nice, simple poster, and I'm going to be using PixArt for this one. Now, these are all the images I will be using for this poster because I will be playing around with the colors, distorting the image, and making sure that it has a nice horror effect. All right, so these are the pictures, just 4 pictures, nothing too complicated. Now, the most important thing in graphics is the text, the fonts that you select. And therefore, when you're creating those pictures, it is very important that you don't create a background that is too busy. So remember that when you're selecting your pictures. Now, once you start to develop your ideas, you are going to have to play around with it a little bit. Put some images in the back, distort the images a little bit, try to make it original. Because remember, in the graphic designing world, copywriting issues are very, very serious, and you don't want to be called into question whenever you release your projects out there. So it's important that you try not to use images as they originally appear on Google, but play around with them a little bit. All right, so after you have selected your fonts, you want to ensure that the fonts work with the background that you have selected. You want to ensure that they are scaled properly. You want to ensure that the movie title is seen first, the actors are seen second, a theme and the date, and so on. So you want to have different levels in the text. This will ensure that your reader sees the right message first and is able to follow with what the poster is speaking about. So, step 6 involves the critiquing of your design. Now, this is the part where you get feedback from your client, feedback from your teacher, or feedback from your colleagues, your friends, or even persons who are not even artists. So the feedback is very important because it will reveal those particular areas that may need adjustment in your design. All right, so we looked at time travel and we looked at red sands. Both of them have the theme time, but took two different approaches. Now for the time travel design, we found that the background used a lot more images and has a little bit more busyness to it and a simple text in front. While the red sands poster used a little bit more of a simple background but used a more distorted text to draw more attention to that. Now we can see both themes coming out in the pictures, and we can also see the different approach that each artist took for this particular exercise. Now let's take a closer look at the red sands. Now we can see the different levels of information there. We can see the title first, followed by the subtitle and the date and so on. It is important for you to organize your text in size, in color, so that it reads the way that you want the viewers to see it. Let's look at the other poster. Time travel. We see the astronaut here interacting with the text, which is very good when you're doing graphic design. It shows that you have a good command of layers and you understand how to pull and play with the distance in the pictures. Now, both of these designs are very good. Both of these designs are okay. And you can see how each application really takes you through a different experience. Now, the PixArt is a small application, so it doesn't require as much megabytes or space on your phone, so you can try that one out first before you move into the Auto Desktop Sketchbook. Now, we've come to the end of today's lesson, so let's look at our objectives. So we were able to define graphic design, we were able to explain the purpose of posters. Now we understand why it is important to research when designing posters. Now we also explored different photo editing applications, and we were able to create a poster using the design process. Also, we were able to complete a poster using an application and a theme of our choice. I chose time. What did you choose? And finally, we were able to critique our designs and the designs of others. So I would love to hear your questions. I would love to see your designs. So if you would like to share them with me, you can use the email address on your screen. Please share them. I'm excited and would love to see them. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I hope you explore those applications that we have looked at. And I hope you don't stop here, but move on in your graphic designing career. Till next time.